We all strive for goodness, seeking ultimate success. Yet we often cling tightly to the material possessions that weigh us down, creating a paradox where our accumulation prevents our spiritual growth. ये तहकीकी और तज्ज़ियाती वीडियो Spiritual University Pakistan की तरफ से पेश की जा रही है. Attachment at the personal level is the mandatory prerequisite for building anything that lasts. Once a person purifies their individual intentions, they cannot survive in isolation. They must anchor themselves to a broader, collective community of believers. This graphic emphasizes the physical center of that unity, pointing to the text that defines Mecca as the cradle of peace and guidance. It stands as the world's first house of worship, providing humanity with a shared spiritual direction. Beyond the physical direction, there is an abstract, binding principle, Hablullah, the rope of Allah. The Quran issues a strict command to hold fast to this shared guidance together, explicitly forbidding the community from fracturing into sects. As seen in this visual, the text highlights the necessity of holding that rope of unity. Without it, historical animosities and division had driven humanity to the very brink of an abyss of fire, and only a shared divine anchor pulled them back. Collective survival is entirely dependent on this shared submission. Surrendering the individual ego to this unifying rope is exactly what makes the society unbreakable. To see how unity holds under pressure, we look to the reality of 7th century Arabia, where early believers faced an extreme physical and psychological test. During the Battle of Uhud, the community suffered devastating losses. This raises a difficult intellectual question. Why would a divine plan allow sincere believers to endure severe wounds and military setbacks? This comparative table shows the answer. A trial acts as a mathematical filter. By contrasting the traits of a mu'min with a munafiq under severe stress, it demonstrates how extreme pressure forces a necessary separation between hidden hypocrites and those with genuine faith. The outcome of the battle is secondary to the steadfastness displayed. The believers are reminded that the Prophet Muhammad is a messenger, and their ultimate reliance must be placed entirely on Allah, regardless of who lives or dies on the field. ये तहकीकी और तज्ज़ियाती वीडियो Spiritual University Pakistan की तरफ से पेश की जा रही है. The physical defeat at Uhud served a specific structural purpose. It stripped away the weak links, leaving a refined, cohesive core capable of bearing the weight of an entire civilization. The battlefield left a massive psychological toll. Families faced the crushing grief of losing beloved companions, fathers and sons. To address this trauma, the Quran establishes a radical perspective on mortality. Looking at this text, it explicitly declares that those killed in the way of Allah are not dead. They are very much alive and receiving provision from their Creator. This revelation neutralizes the paralyzing fear of death. The heavy grief of the survivors is replaced with the understanding that their fallen companions are actively rejoicing in divine bounty. By conquering the fear of death, the community finalizes its psychological resilience. They are now fully prepared to enforce the heavy, demanding responsibilities of law and social justice that must follow. With the war over, the focus shifts to the domestic reality left behind. The community must figure out how to rebuild a society populated by vulnerable widows and orphans. Here, Surah An-Nisa introduces its foundational principle. As this diagram maps out, all humanity stems from a single, unified soul, nafs wahida, meaning mutual respect and rights are an inherent obligation for every person. From this principle comes uncompromising legal protection. The text highlighted here issues a severe warning. Consuming the wealth of orphans unjustly is exactly equivalent to filling one's own belly with fire. The verses then establish hudud, or divine limits. The text alongside these balance scales outlines the precise fractional mathematics of inheritance and the strict enforcement of a woman's right to her mahr, removing human bias from the distribution of wealth. These strict boundaries do not exist to restrict freedom. They act as load-bearing walls, preventing a civilization from collapsing into exploitation and inequality. Even with these strict divine limits in place, human beings are fallible. Individuals will inevitably fail, succumb to ignorance, and cross these boundaries. Because of this, an immediate mechanism for course correction is provided. As indicated by the text regarding the door of mercy and repentance, Allah guarantees acceptance for those who recognize their error and swiftly correct it without arrogance. The Quran calls upon the people of intellect. This flowchart details their cycle, observing the heavens and earth, realizing their purpose, and seeking divine protection. Apply this deep reflection. Spend what you love, hold to unity, and strictly enforce justice in your family. ये तहकीकी और तज्जियाती वीडियो स्पिरिचुअल यूनिवर्सिटी पाकिस्तान की तरफ से पेश की जा रही है. A righteous, unbreakable society cannot be bought with hoarded wealth. It requires a sequential architecture, beginning with personal sacrifice, tested by steadfastness through trials, and completed by absolute submission to divine justice.